Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont, and I'm here to talk about the final episode of quote unquote season one of Dune Prophecy. And I say quote unquote because I don't view this as season one. I view this as season zero point 0.5. Like, it's already been greenlit for season two. They probably already filmed half of it. Who knows? But they only gave us 6 episodes, and I don't feel 6 episodes is an actual season. To me, that's a partial season. My microphone was slowly lowering. It was weird. I don't view it as a whole season. It's basically a season used to be however long a show ran for a year. So in Japan, you have shows that have 48 episodes in a season because they aired every week with a few exceptions. Syndicate broadcast in the United States used to be a season was 26 episodes. And they would split it in half seasons, which became 13. And then they started changing. I don't know if it was sweeps that determined the change in season or if it was like, the FCC, who I don't know who decided that 13 episodes is now a season. And then streaming came out and they were like, whatever we choose is now a season. But 8 episodes, that's a season. 10, season. 6, season. And I just feel like it's cheating the viewers out of the full viewing experience by shortening seasons to the point where writers either have to be rushed to finish the story or, in the case of Dune Prophecy, just leave it as a cliffhanger and don't resolve any of the stories. And, well, spoiler alerts, one story arc got resolved, and that was the Emperor's because he's dead. Yeah, that was pretty much the only storyline that got wrapped up. Everything else is kind of still up in the air, unfinished. They didn't really address much in this episode other than revealing to the characters in the show all the stuff that the viewers already know. Like, people are revealing that Lila is being possessed by her ancestors, and the sisters know that. They're revealing that Valia and Tula and their friends pretty much got rid of Sister Dorothea's followers. They're revealing that Desmond is a Harkonnen / Atreides. He's the first, bloodline merger, and I guess the only that we know of. And, man, I don't want to have to do it, but I feel like I'm going to have to read Brian Herbert's works just to understand what it is they're trying to do here and see how badly they've either butchered and or been true to it, because there's so much going on that I'm just wondering what the plan is. Like, what's the plan? Are you going to be able to wrap it all up? Because you didn't wrap anything up in the end of season one. That being said, some of the special effects in this are fantastic. Some of them are crap. Some of the acting is fantastic. A lot of it's bad. Like, Lila, I do not like the actress's portrayal or performance, I should say. I shouldn't say portrayal because I don't know the character. But her performance is not great. She just hasn't had the chance to cut her teeth, I don't think, as an actress. And I haven't looked into her history. I don't even know her real name. But she is not well at conveying emotion. To her, it's either like looking confused or screaming or being angry. And that's her full spectrum of emotion right now. Not exactly a tour de force, as it were. Desmond, great. Tula, great. Valia, great. The Emperor, great. Everyone else seems to be kind of meh. And then, well, some characters are meh and others are bad, just outright bad acting. And then you have the action sequences. There's a couple of them in this. One of them, they do a lot of quick cuts to kind of show well, not show, to avoid showing that the actors and actresses aren't really action stars and they don't really have the capability to do the action scenes in a way that seems believable and it seems well choreographed. No matter what they say, they had like a clip at the end of the show where some guy was like, "We've been working with them for weeks now, so we've got the choreograph down really well." And they show a bit where they're doing it without like all the special effects and the camera cutting, and it doesn't look really well. It doesn't look that great. It's very B, you know, B material. It's not top of the line. It's not what you would expect from a production this large with this kind of budget. The show's, I mean, I'm talking a lot of trash. The episode's not horrible. It's definitely one of the stronger episodes in the season. It's just these constant like cliffhangers and unresolved storylines that are just like, come back for season 2. It's like you should have just made it a season 1, one big long season, even if it was a split season. And they had to tell us season 1's going to be split in 2 and you're going to have one part this year and one part next year. I'd be fine with that. But calling this season 1 when you don't resolve the arcs and the stories that were set up in this season is disingenuous and a cheap and a cop out. And you're basically breaking some of the tenets of a show. You should have storylines resolved. Things should be concluded. Characters should show their growth. We haven't really gotten the character growth yet for most of these people. And if it weren't for the excellent performance of the main characters, this show might be unwatchable. I'd say right now it's about a 6. So it's not a bad show. It's better than average, or it's in the average range depending on how you rate things. Because, you know, you tell some people, oh, it's a 6 out of 10, and they'll say, oh, that's bad. But if you tell them it's a 3 out of 5, they'll be like, well, that's not bad. 3 out of 5 is pretty good, which is they're the same score. You know, like, that's just how people view things. They have their own perspectives. So when I say I give it a 6, it's because overall I don't hate it. It wasn't some horrible thing, but again, I haven't read Brian Herbert's work, so I don't know if I'm supposed to be hating it. I don't know if it's ruining the stories. I do know that I don't enjoy a lot of this, what I would call revisionist history or unnecessary. It just feels as if they're trying to create stories that I don't know if Brian Herbert created. And again, I just feel like I'm going to have to actually read his works to see if this is stuff that he did. Like, did Brian Herbert originate the voice with the Harkonnens and not the Sisterhood? Did Brian Herbert retcon how the Atreides line and the Harkonnen line went? Or is this like show stuff? The machines, the thinking machines being used by fucking everyone in this show. It's, oh, we fought this giant war because these machines almost exterminated humanity, and everyone just uses them. And I don't know if they're going to try to bring in like the Simek race, which is, whoa, that's some deep lore there. And I only know about the Simeks from the little bit I've read of Herbert's later works, and then the Encyclopedia of Dune, which explains a lot of stuff. And I've read a few of the comics, and I think some of the Simeks are in the comics, but I don't think they call them Simeks. I think I later found out they were Simeks. What do they call them? The Titans. I think in the comic series and some of the other works, it's called the Titans. And there's a lot to the Dune universe, and it's a pretty expansive universe by this point. You know, Frank Herbert wrote 6 books. Brian Herbert wrote 3. I think Frank was working on more when he passed, and maybe that's what Brian finished. I don't know. I just never got into Brian's works. I was never one to be into reading prequels, because prequel stories cause a bunch of unnecessary hang-ups, mix-ups. They retcon things, And here's one of the problems I do have. So this story takes place 10,000 years before the events of the Dune series with Paul Atreides and the Kwisatz Haderach. The technology seems to be about the same, right? So you're saying in 10,000 years, technology hasn't advanced so far beyond where it is in the beginning of this story that it's unrecognizable. It's just ridiculous. It's like Star Wars. When you read Star Wars stuff and you get into the Old Republic, their technology in the Old Republic, which is set thousands of years before the main Star Wars stories, is the same. There's a few discrepancies, like ships are slower, but lightsabers are the same. Robot technology is the same. It's just there's no progression, and mankind, at least humankind as we know it, experiences progression at a rapid pace. If you just look at how humans were 50 years ago compared to how we are now, our progression is ridiculous. And it's just hard to believe that in 10,000 years, the Dune universe doesn't progress too much further beyond what they're showing us right now. The Sisterhood will progress a little bit. They'll have more refined techniques. They'll all be able to use the voice, where right now it seems that there's only like 4 or 5 people that can use the voice, and those are the ones that Valia teaches. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to go too much into the plot. Go watch it if you want. I'm not going to go much into the plot because there's not a much. Here, I'll tell you everything that happens in the episode. The Emperor finds out he's a puppet, and then he dies. Valia finds out that Desmond is actually her nephew, and her sister lied about having a stillbirth. They swapped him out, and he got sent away to somebody. But then he talks as if he's raised as an orphan, even though he was supposed to be sent to a loving family. They don't explain who the family is yet. That's another cliffhanger, an unresolved story arc. They don't exactly explain what happened to Desmond other than the fact that the machines, not even necessarily the machines, they're saying someone controlling the machines gave him the ability to project a nanovirus into people. And the nanovirus operates on fear, and it almost seems like resilience. The stronger you fight against the virus, the more it attacks you. And this is where they're trying to make the birth of the litany of fear. So it's, again, I don't know if this is where Frank Herbert intended this stuff to begin. If Brian Herbert was just branching off his father's works, and because he can't think of his own ideas, he's just giving histories to everything that already exists. That's really what this series feels like. It's the history of everything that already exists. It's like, here's the beginning of it. Here's the beginning of it. Here's the beginning of it. It's just the show never resolved all these storylines. They didn't resolve the princess's storyline. They didn't resolve the Atreides storyline with the royal bodyguard. Desmond's storyline is only like partially told. The Sisterhood storyline is only partially told. And I'm supposed to believe that the Sisterhood was changing from what we know them as into what they've been shown to be. But we know that doesn't happen. Like, Lila's story is almost pointless because in the future of Dune, the Sisterhood is doing exactly what Valia is setting them up to do. What the original, Mother Raquel was setting them up to do. Control birthright to create a supreme being. Only they're just using an AI. And then there's one of those horrible tropes in this where smashing a computer destroys everything about the computer. And I'm like, why? Why do they think that's a thing? I don't know how it still persists as a trope in Hollywood that if you hit a computer with a crowbar and it turns off, that everything on that computer is done and destroyed. No. Most likely what you've done is either destroyed the connection to the monitor, right, the graphics card, or the power supply. It's very unlikely that you've destroyed all the memory. And even if you have destroyed the memory drive, we have solid state drives as it is. You're talking 10,000 years from now. They don't have better storage technology. You're going to tell me this AI doesn't have a backup of itself, or that Valia doesn't have a backup of the AI because she knows this is a potential that can happen? No, they do. They for sure do. That'll probably be addressed later on when Lila's story arc is finally resolved, when Vanya's story arc is finally resolved, when Desmond's story arc is finally resolved. I wow. I sound like I absolutely hated it, but I didn't. Again, it was the acting. The acting really helped, and I just hate cliffhangers. I hate when you call it a season one and it ends on a cliffhanger, and they did it not necessarily knowing that season two was going to be approved, because season two just got approved, I think, a week ago, which means that this show was filmed, done, finalized, post production, and then approved before they announced the season two. So they planned on a cliffhanger going into the next season, and had this show done atrocious, had it had no ratings, no one watched it, they probably wouldn't have continued it. Because why is HBO going to dump? Well, yeah, no. Why would they dump money into a show? I was going to say Warner hates money, but they hate making money. They don't hate spending it. It's just weird. It's a weird episode. I didn't know what to do for most of the time. I was just watching it like, okay, why are they doing that? Are they going to resolve this? Oh no, we're setting up some more storylines instead of resolving the old ones. Oh, we're going to set up some more storylines. It was a longer episode. It was about an hour and a half, so it was about a movie length episode, which I was saying they need at least 2 hours to resolve these storylines. And about halfway through, I paused it just to look at the time, and I went, oh, I have concerns. I don't think they're going to finish. And then they didn't, and I was like, yep, I know they already announced season two, so I have a feeling they're going to bait us into watching season two. And they have. You got me, guys. I'm going to watch season two. I'll say that right now. It's happening. Season's happening. I'm going to watch it. I'm invested. I don't hate the show. I don't love the show. And damn it, they're going to make me Brian Herbert's work. I'm also going to polish up on the Dune books. I remember trying them a long time ago. At least the fourth book, Frank Herbert. I was like, this is so much different. Dune and Children, that I was just I almost like a different person writing it at that time, but it wasn't. It was Frank. I guess he's trying to evolve the vision of the world was, expand upon it, tell us encompassing and comprehensive story. Because you finish Dune, you only know about Paul. Really, you don't know jack shit about the universe at the first novel. You don't really get lore building and Messiah and expansion until Children. Once it's Leto, the story. But there we go. I this season I'm giving it a 6. I said that 6. Not great, not bad. Kind of upper end of mediocre. That 4, 5, 6. That's the middle range. 4 is the bottom. 5's mid as fuck, and then 6 is above mid, branching into good. So that's where I'm at. And yeah, that's all I have for this video. Belmont out.